Good morning and welcome to the session on sales and production planning in terms of servicing the customers from our solutions business. So, before I get into the overall session, I will just give you a brief overview on what do we take in this session, what are going to be the coverage points and what are all going to be our learning at the end of the session. So, the first one is what is done. We just see what are the types of value addition we do in glass, how is it done, the flow of material and the information part, which is very important, and the real role of planning in terms of these various stages, and finally the key performance indicators on how we evaluate the entire process of planning. So, students, before we talk on planning, we need to understand planning has two categories, sales and production planning. So, when we talk about sales, the segment of business is as such, you will be getting inputs from your customer in terms of confirmed orders, which has to be broken into various delivery schedules. So, this delivery schedule, the confirmed specifications, the confirmed sizes, the confirmed requirements, all put together in terms of various collated formats will form the final summary of what is the sales requirement at project level, which is at customer level. So, this requirement is then compiled and then based upon the allocation and availability of resources, it is getting inputted in terms of a production plan, getting executed and then finally once again service back to the customer in terms of a delivery. So, this process is what we call in terms of serviceability of customer in our solutions in glass processing industry. So, as said to you, I will just take you into the various stages, and the first point would be what is done, which is nothing but the types of value addition of glass. So, here I am just trying to give you a brief pictures in terms of what are all the value additions you can add in glass. As you can see here, the first one, you can do a laminated glass, a colorful design subject on the glass, which is called the ceramic painting, then the DGU, which you would have seen it, and then various shapes also can be cut in the glass. So, for all this, what are all the types of process and what are all the subdivisions of that process in terms of various terminologies? I will just give you a brief update so that you are clear as we go into the various concepts of planning on how do we finally plan and deliver this as part of the customer need is concerned. So, when you take the first one, the first operation in glass is cutting. So, in cutting I would have given you three steps. One, we talk about similar and dissimilar. What is similar and dissimilar? Similar and dissimilar are nothing but the symmetrical cutting and the asymmetrical cutting part. Why do you do it? You do it in terms of better combinations for optimizing and maximizing your yield. The second one is the edge deletion part, which for the silvered coated glasses you need to do this as a special process during cutting, so that you are able to prevent the oxidation during your IGU steps. So, this is also being done under cutting, and the shapes is nothing but complex profiles where you input it into the machine and then you cut it into the desired profile. So, all these three comes under cutting, and the next step would be the grinding operation. In grinding you have, I would have mentioned 4 stages, where these are 4 different types. One would be the arising, the second would be the clear polishing, the third would be the edge finishing, and fourth would be the CH. So, based upon the different customer requirements, different customer critical to quality parameters, you perform either of these, and then you move into the CNC, where you will be knowing which is needed for making cutouts in the glass, which is needed for making holes and any engraving you need to do on the glass in terms of writing something or mentioning some quotes. You can also do an engraving which can be done, which can be performed in the CNC machines. And after this operation you have various stages. It depends upon what the actual customer needs. For example, if you see here, we talk about the ceramic painting. In ceramic painting you have different types where we call the roller plane and the screen pattern type. So with these two, these are the two types where you can do a ceramic painting on the glass. And after this you want to get into a tempering, where to strengthen the glass you have three different categories. One you call the heat strengthen, which is 2 times in terms of strength, the tempering, which is 4 times in terms of strength, and the super tempered, where it is almost 8 times the strength. So based upon once again the customer critical parameters, you perform either one of this. And after tempering you have two more stages where you call it the lamination and the DGU. So this is what I was calling as the laminated glass, where you have two different glasses where you bind it in terms of a fabric lamination or a PVB lamination or a central lamination. This type of lamination once again is being decided by the customer in terms of his requirement. And then the last step in terms of the overall process would be the IGU, which is integrating the glass. And here you have two types where it is an air filled or an argon filled. Argon filled is basically used for silver based coated products. So these are the 7 types of basic process where you had different types of value addition to the glass, making it more better, making it more stronger, making it more richer in terms of looks, and deliver it as per the customer critical requirement is concerned. So before we get into the planning, having understood the process in terms of what are all the process which we do in glass industry in terms of adding value addition, it is first and foremost important to understand how does the material flow. So material flow forms a first important part in the overall glass industry processing. So I am just explaining you will be seeing it on the screen, that a schematic sketch in terms of various process and a coordination of the various process as an input and the next as part of an output, in such a way how do you meet to the dispatch to the customer. So here we see you have a raw glass from float happening, which is nothing but you buy glass from a float industry and then you perform the cutting operation. As I said to you, here you can perform symmetrical cutting as well as asymmetrical cutting and get it based upon even shapes which is desired by the customer, and then you do a grinding, and then after grinding you do a tempering. So when you go for tempering, there are two more stages before tempering which can be added based upon the customer requirement. One, you want to add a printing on the glass, which I showed you in terms of the various designs. You after grinding you add the ceramic printing and then you can go for tempering, or even after adding ceramic printing you want to add some holes or you want to take some cutouts, you do a CNC cutting and then you get into the tempering. So these two process, the ceramic printing and CNC cutting, is an additional value addition in terms of the process based upon the customer requirement on how he actually wants. If it is going to be only a plain glass where it does not have any printing nor holes nor cutouts, then it goes into the tempering, for which it gets strengthened, and then after strengthening it can be dispatched to a customer if he wants as is, or he wants it as a lamination. Then you send this glass to the lamination plant or the lamination machine, where you bind the glass with respect to a fabric or a sentry, and if that is enough, this can be dispatched directly to the customer. Or if after tempering you want to only do the IGU operation, you can send the glass from tempered to IGU, where the two glasses are being integrated, and then it can be dispatched to the customer. There is also an operation where you can laminate two different glasses and then bind it together in terms of an IGU machine. So even after lamination, two different panels can be integrated through IGU and can be dispatched to the customer. So students, understand this is the overall flow cycle, and the material flows right from procurement from the float industry, then to the cutting, and then to the grinding, and after grinding, based upon the value addition between printing or CNC cutting, it gets into the tempering, and after tempering it decides based upon lamination or IGU, and then it follows this flow and then gets dispatched to the customer. So, this material flow should remember only one basic thing: when is the customer requirement to be dispatched, and based upon that you need to plan all resources, all schedules in such a way you are able to make a flow straight to dispatch to the customer. So, after seeing the material flow, I will just take you through a small schematic sketch explaining the information flow, because in production planning and sales, or we say the sales and production planning, material flow is one point which we take care, but the information flow is very important, because that is where you add all the critical parameters into the specification list for the manufacturing to ensure it is being accomplished. So, here I will just explain you the overall information flow of the process. You have the customer. Who is the customer? The customer is a person who actually buys glass from your industry, which is the glass industry. And we have our sales team, who is nothing but the sales engineer whom the customer contacts. The sales guy or the sales team places an inquiry to the customer service department. The customer service department immediately after receiving the inquiry quickly checks with the planning team whether the raw glass is available, what kind of yield you will be able to deliver for this requirement. So, the planning team gives that input in terms of the yield acceptance and what should be the necessary inputs for the pricing consideration to the finance team. And once the finance is okay in terms of all the overall pricing and the yield part, it gives an approval to proceed. So, the approval flows back directly to the customer service team, and from customer service team to the sales team, and then back to the customer. So, in this first loop you are able to see a clear process where the customer at inception of his requirement contacts the sales guy through the customer service, touches the planning team, and with various inputs from planning team gets it passed through finance for further order placement from the sales team to the customer. So, this is one cycle. So, once this process completes and the customer is really happy in terms of the pricing, in terms of the schedule on when what date he will be able to get it, he immediately releases a pro forma invoice, and this goes to the customer service department. And once again, this being a pro forma invoice, the customer service team comes to the planning as part of the order creation, where the first step in planning would be the batch creation stage. And after batch creation stage, it flows into the manufacturing process, and from manufacturing process getting dispatched, and from dispatch it reaches the customer. So, if you see this overall process, you need to understand the planning plays a central role in terms of understanding the customer requirement, understanding the manufacturing resource availability, understanding the current schedules of the customer, and then understanding what is going to be the overall yield of your process, and with all these inputs gives back and forth information to the customer service team, also to the sales team, in such a way the orders taken are being routed to the right process in terms of meeting the right delivery as expected by the customer. So, if you see in this process, I would be explaining the importance of planning in terms of the batch creation stage as part of coordination with the manufacturing and the customer segment. And apart from this, I would also take you into the various KPIs of planning and the process in which it executes on a month. in meeting the overall requirements of the customer for that month. So, as I said to you, once the glass PI is being received, it is being initiated to the planning for further process into the manufacturing and delivery to the customer. In this stage, the first stage is batch creation. What do you mean by batch creation? So, I will just explain you very shortly on batch. Batch is nothing but a means of communication and information between the planning and the manufacturing team. It is a very important information, communication of information between the planning and the manufacturing team. Why? Before I ask you why, let us understand what are all the inputs to be given in this batch. You have the parent dimensions, okay, which is nothing but the bigger glass from which you cut the actual size needed by the customer. The actual size needed by the customer is nothing but the child dimension. Okay. You also decide what should be the trim allowance to be left and what is the production plan date for that cutting or for that operation in the various operations which you saw in the overall processing. And what do you take as outputs from the batch? The outputs are nothing but yield, the layout of the cutting, the parent sheet, how much parent sheets will get consumed, what is the production history, the process description and the flow. And what are all the factors to be considered during batch creation? The first factor would be the yield optimization. Students, please remember, yield is the basic parameter in planning and in manufacturing which helps you to save glass, reduce cost as committed to your customer, and hence this becomes the first important factor to be considered before selection of any of the parent. The tempering bed load optimization, the stacking of cut sizes for easy pairing, the parent pile availability, the minimum breaking distance and the trim. Okay. So, I will just take you into some more details in terms of the factors. As I told you, yield is nothing but what is the overall geometry of the glass, how much glass you are going to waste. So, this is called the yield. Okay. So, if you ask me in short, the net glass divided by the total glass gives you the yield. The tempering bed load optimization is nothing but given a processing time, what is the maximum extent of usage in the tempering bed, that is the load optimization of this. Then after your tempering, how do you prefer the stacking of cut sizes for easy pairing, because it depends upon each stages on what you want. Then whether the raw glass is available, if so when it has been moved, what is the breaking distance in the tempering, and then what should be also the trim to be considered for the overall batch. So, here in the side I have given you a small schematic sketch which will explain you the batch creation of a complex product where I call it as a laminated DGU. So, guys, students, please understand what is laminated DGU. Laminated DGU is nothing but you have two laminated panels, and with these two laminated panels you integrate them into a double glazing unit. So, to do that let us understand this batch creation, how it happens. So, I will just take you into the previous steps to explain the schematic sketch of this. So, as I said, LLDGU is nothing but a double laminated glass DGU. So, please understand that. So, the first step is what? Okay. So, when I talk about laminated glass, you can see the colored blue 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So, 1 and 2 is nothing but the first two glasses, 3 and 4 is nothing but the second two glasses. So, I would have indicated a color of blue here, and the same number is also being indicated as blue, which gives you a clear understanding that these two are one laminated unit and the 3 and 4 is the second laminated unit. Okay. And since you are going to follow the next process of tempering, I have indicated that both the glasses are being first tempered. So, what happens here? you first cut it, you second grind it, and then you temper all these 4 glasses. And then what do? You laminate the 1 and 2 glass, you laminate the 3 and 4 glass. Okay. So, what happens? You get a 5th unit, which is nothing but this single point, and then the 6th unit is nothing but this single point. And after lamination, you just apply a DGO. I have shown you this DGO in terms of a dark color here in this glass between the 2 units. So, this is a very complex process explaining the overall batch creation of a LLDGO. Let us take this off shelf to understand, for example, what it is going to be for a simple tempering glass. So, what should be the batch creation for a simple tempering glass? Simple tempering glass, the batch creation should be for a cutting, grinding, and then only for a tempering. That is all the batch. So, if you are going to do a lamination without tempering, then you will do a batch creation for cutting, tempering, and then for lamination.